we drove to Atlantic City. I'd never been in an airplane.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, why don't we just drive? And got to go to New York beforehand, which had been a big dream for me.
Yeah.
And had a fabulous time. And I just said, oh, everything's worth it, all the hard work, because I got to see Broadway. I got to see Manhattan, and it was so much fun. And then went to Atlantic City for the Miss America. And I remember turning to my mother as we went into the big opening presentation where all the contestants were there and their chaperones, and my mother was my chaperone, and I turned to Mother and said, I'm just so intimidated and scared. I'm so happy this is the last time I'll ever do anything like this.
Yeah.
Well, didn't work out like that.
Yeah, so you guys drove all the way there.
We drove all the way.
Tell me about that road trip.
Well, it was, the back.
It's amazing.
We just had a tiny little place in the back seat to sit because we had hats and evening gowns, and we had everything with us. Yeah. And it was great. It was, and my pageant director, who could not come to, the only time she ever missed the Miss America pageant when she was director was that year. Yeah. And I was so disappointed for her because she was kind of a character, and everybody knew her, and she would have been the happiest person there.
Yeah.
Even more so than I was, more so than my parents, because we were kind of scared at what happened and what's ahead. But Tony would have just loved it.
Yeah, well, I mean, going from Laverne to New York City in 1967, right?
Yeah, it was culture shock.
That's two different worlds.
It's two different worlds, and one of the greatest gifts of that year is that I got to live in Manhattan. I had a suite in a hotel, and I traveled almost every day. But if I had 2 days off, we'd go back to New York. And I always had a chaperone, except when I was there, and I could go shopping and be a little bit more normal.
Yeah,
it's a big shock at that time. It's not quite the same now,
right.
But that time, I mean, the second you win, there's probably 70, 80 press people there, and I had to have armed guards.
Yeah,
and it was like, what in the world am I going to do? Yeah. Didn't they pay attention, those judges? Didn't they see what a young, inexperienced person I was?
So
I'm glad they didn't.
Well, yeah. There's so many great things that come from that and come out of that, right? You get to travel the world. You get to live in New York. Like this.
Life-changing. A whole different future because of that. And I think that attitude really helped me as a candidate because I wasn't dead set on winning. I was just having the time of my life. I had a banner that said Miss Oklahoma. I got to walk that runway that I dreamed about and seen on television year after year. Got to meet all these wonderful young women from across the nation. And I love performing, and to think that I could perform on that stage. And again, we changed my talent to, there was a popular song called 1, 2, 3, and I also studied conducting. And so we changed my talent to singing and conducting the orchestra. I never rehearsed it live with an orchestra until the 5-minute rehearsal for my talent. And it's just like, great. But I'd practiced in our little garage in Laverne a million times.
Yeah.
So that just kind of takes over when you're that dedicated to doing something.
Yeah, because you just take yourself back to your garage, right? You don't think there's hundreds of people or thousands of people in front of you.
Well, you're a golfer, you're an athlete. It's like muscle memory.
Yeah, you're right.
And fortunately, and because I loved it. I won talent my night of preliminary competition, and it's a fun song, and nobody had ever seen anything like it, and we really made it up.
So you win.
And
like you just said, all hell breaks loose, right?
Yes.
You got people you got cameras in your face, you got lights everywhere, people wanting interviews, wanting their sound bites, and this young girl from Laverne, Oklahoma.
And my parents were going to leave. My parents had to go home, and I was like, what am I going to do? They're going to find out that I can't say 10 words in front of people.
Yeah. So what then, after that kind of calms down, you know, and I guess the judges come to you, and then you're
That's it. Day one, you're off.
right?
Yep, you're off for a year.
Hit the road.
Almost daily.
Yeah, all over the
New
country,
York
all over
press,
the world.
you know, all over the world.
Okay. Yeah.
At that time.
God, so good.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my first big luncheon. It was a United Way kickoff campaign in Detroit. And Jules Bergman, science editor for one of the networks, was the featured speaker. He was so kind to me. And I saw my name on the program. I mean, I was sitting at the front on the speaker's table. My name, and I asked my chaperone, I said, what am I supposed to do? She said, well, just say a few words. What few words?
Hi, my name is, and I'm from Oklahoma.
Oh, and I'm from Laverne. And I hope you guys are glad to be here. I don't know what I said, but they were always so kind and generous. Yeah. Even the New York press, which is oftentimes kind of hard on people.
Yeah, a bit ruthless, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I guess you're famous now, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, you are Miss America.
So what do you think about this?
Yeah.
What do you think about Vietnam? What do you think about, you know, being a spokesperson for my whole generation?
Right.
And the pageant really doesn't help you on that.
Right. They've done their bit. They've had their event. Yeah. You know.
Now you're it.
You won. Okay. Now they'll take care of you.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
It was. I'm glad there wasn't social media at the time.
100%. Yeah. Can you imagine how hard that would have been?
If I made a mistake, you know, it would have been.
Yeah.
And I made lots of mistakes, but people were kind and generous,
19,
and they knew I was
old.
trying. You know, I'm a fairly transparent person, and so I think they could see that I was just doing my best.
Yeah.
Here I am.
You're famous, right? And, you know, you take yourself to 1967, and, you know, for me, I think of all the famous, like, kind of singers, actors, like, you know, I'm a big fan of Steve McQueen, and, you know, you think of Frank Sinatra, and just whoever it is, like, you know, because you've won this, you are effectively on the same level as they are,
well,
which is mad to think that, right?
But
it's true.
It is. And it's instant.
Yeah.
And, you know, I did network. I did the Today Show like 2 days later. But nothing was especially hard. I was on such a fast track that I just did they organized it so incredibly well. Yeah. And I made money almost every day, which, you know, I'd been living on $10 a month allowance. Yeah. Plus everything was paid for at school. And then all of a sudden you're making thousands of dollars, and the pageant, they booked everything I did. They took care of the tiniest detail. And all I did was, you know, just show up and do my best and keep going. Yeah. And it was amazing, really.
Yeah, for 1 year, you're just on this train.
You're just on that. And if you're older, I think you can appreciate it more. Yeah. And take advantage of the opportunities. I was very homesick. You know, I wanted my friends. I wanted my family. And 2 years later, it would have been a very different experience.
Right. Yeah.